Well, hello and welcome to a book launch livecast here from Ignite Press. I have an exciting author and book to introduce you to, and we're going to have a lot of fun. We're going to have a great time actually with this one. Before I go too far though, I just want to let you know that if you have a book inside you and you'd like to talk to me about your book and where it's going and what can be done with it, reach out. I'm happy to sit down with you and have a book consultation. And in fact, you can do that through our website at ignitepress.us, ignitepress.us. So let's get to the fun here. Okay, so today I've got with us Gayle Keller, and Gayle is an award-winning, seasoned technology executive. She's got over 20 years of experience in corporate America. And she knows firsthand how women struggle to excel in the workplace. And she also knows how men struggle to understand and cohesively work together with women. So as a result, she's launched her own firm, Gayle Keller LLC, so that she and the brand will be a positive leader and positive role model to her two young girls and also a driving force in gender inclusivity. So today we're going to talk about her book, Full Steam Ahead. And this is Triumphant Tales for Working Women to Overcome Adversity, Fear, and Self-Doubt. Gayle, welcome to the podcast or the livecast.
Thanks, Everett. Great to be here.
It is great to see you. Congratulations on your book launch today.
Thank you so much. I can't believe it's here. I can touch it. I can feel it. I can read it.
And it's on Amazon, and people can get it in paperback and in Kindle, and it'll be going wider soon after that. This is exciting. In fact, it's available now worldwide, which is pretty darned incredible. So congratulations, Gayle.
Thank you. And thanks to you and your Ignite Press team for making this a reality.
Hey, we're having a blast, and we love the way your book turned out too. So let's get to this. I figured we're going to talk about S.T.E.A.M and we're going to talk about Triumphant Tales. I want to talk first about you. So tell us a bit about you and your background.
Sure. So I've been a woman in STEM for over 20 years, and everybody knows what STEM is, but S.T.E.A.M is just kind of getting its wings underneath them. And the A starts for arts. And so I studied arts in college, but I went into technology. And I thought to myself, hey, if I can do that, other people can too. And so I've been a woman in tech for over 20 years, like you mentioned, Everett. And I've always been mentoring and coaching other people throughout my career, just naturally. And when the pandemic hit, I had two young daughters at the time. I pressed pause on my corporate career because I felt called to empower other women to take calculated risks in their careers to reinvent their professional lives. You know, we live in this post-pandemic world where work life isn't a balance anymore. It's about integration. And it's stressful. It's hard. How do we connect the dots to what we want to do, what tugs at our heartstrings, and make them a reality? And sometimes we need that extra clarity and courage and confidence. And so those are part of my 5-pillar methodology that I talk about in my book. And I wanted to empower other women to use those tools that they have in them to empower them to take their leaps of faith.
Okay, so I want to get into these pillars. Okay, I want to get into these 5 pillars. But before we do, I want to find out, Gayle, who'd you write the book for? And what was your inspiration for it? Because, I mean, let's face it, lots of people want to write books, but very, very few see it through, let alone see it be published on Amazon and be in the midst of a launch like we are today. So who'd you write it for, and what was your inspiration?
So I wrote it for all working women in all the industries, STEAM and beyond. So from doctors to technologists to scientists to engineers, etc. Anyone and everyone that's a working woman struggles compared to men to take calculated risks in their careers. Because in my experience, if we do take a calculated risk, we take it too late and the opportunity often passes us by. So how can we get that chutzpah to take those risks? So I wrote it for all working women out there, whether you're a mom, you're single, if you're working, you're definitely listening to those heartstrings and maybe struggling with how to connect the dots to follow your goals, to follow your dreams. Truth be told, Everett, I didn't become a book reader until, I don't know, within the last 10 years when I went back to grad school. And I learned through storytelling. So yes, I have this 5-pillar methodology that you and I both mentioned, but I didn't want to write a how-to business book. I best learn through storytelling. So I thought, what better way to get my pillars across, my empowerment across through storytelling? And so with S.T.E.A.M, I have 5 characters, 5 ethnic women in S.T.E.A.M that all take on one of my pillars, that have 5 challenges and come up with 5 solutions. And those 5 solutions, whether there be conflict or struggle, isn't pointing the finger at the other person or the problem, but it's interpersonal reflection on how they can better their characteristics, strengthen their skill sets, strengthen their muscle, and be courageous to overcome those challenges with solutions.
All right, this is wonderful. So let's dive in, if you don't mind. Let's dive into the pillars. Oh, and in fact, there's a VIP here commenting. I love that. And she says 5 pillars with challenging stories and characters with solutions. Cindy, I'm so glad Cindy's here on the call. And so, yeah, let's go. Tell us about the 5 pillars.
So the 5 pillars are clarity, courage, decisiveness, confidence, and balance. And in my career, I noticed that those were the 5 superpowers. And my number 1 superpower is courage. That have gotten me to where I am today, whether it be in corporate America or starting my own business where I coach women, I do group masterminds with companies, go in there and talk to, let's say, the finance department or the marketing division, and work and coach the women in this cohort group. I also speak at conferences. I work with universities all around this calculated risk-taking. Because if you peel back the onion, we want to close the gender gap in the STEAM industries. But where does it start? It doesn't start after we get our diplomas and we're in the real world. It truly starts at the university level and lower. So when kids are really, really little, getting them involved in STEAM curriculum and carrying that passion through. And also, if you're a woman in STEAM, give back, mentor, sponsor other women that are climbing the corporate ladder behind you and help them, empower them, give them that courage and that confidence that you have in you to help them rise in the ranks.
Okay, that's excellent. You brought to mind. So my children are, well, they're all grown now, but they're not so old that I don't remember them participating in Lego robotics leagues. And what I love to see is that there was Destination Imagination that my daughter participated in, and there was the Lego First League that my youngest son participated in. But what I loved was how mixed that was. It is no longer the land of boys and Legos. It is now integrated largely. I'm sure there's still work to be done, but how wonderful it is, because and I brought that up because you said it doesn't begin when you're in the workplace. It doesn't even begin when you're in college. It begins in high school, junior high, elementary school, maybe even sooner, right? What toys are our kids playing with? Where and how are we speaking with them? So now you mentioned in your bio your daughters, and I think about your daughters and having this book as a reference. Like, what impact is that likely going to have for them?
My goal is a positive one, right? And so I'm not going to close the gender gap by myself. But if I can contribute to closing that gap, I'm going to feel a lot better about myself. And when we were pregnant with our girls, we never found out their genders. And so when my second daughter arrived, I thought, how can I pave the way and make the road a little more smooth? Well, smoother is proper grammar, but make it smoother for my girls, right? And like I said, I'm not going to do it all by myself, but if I can help other women and empower them, I'm better about myself. And I want to equip my girls with the right tools. And so this book, Full Steam Ahead, is my first book, but my intention is to write a prequel for girls in STEAM following this book, because it's so important to bookend this journey and to help girls become women in STEAM. And so through that, I've come up with the 5 characters, and I'll read to you because they go back to my 5 pillars, and they'll be, they're adults in this book, but then there'll be girls in my prequel. So Scylla believes clarity empowers her to be sensational in science. Tyreka believes decisiveness empowers her to be tenacious in technology. Elaine believes competence empowered her to be exquisite in engineering. Antonio believes that courage, my superpower, empowered her to be assertive in arts. And lastly, Malika believes balance empowered her to be motivated in mathematics.
Okay, so I want to highlight for everybody that right now, this terrific book's on sale. You can pick it up on Amazon right now. In fact, I've got this to show you here. So launch day special running, and you can actually pick up the Kindle version of the book for just 99 cents. The paperback is also available there, but the Kindle's available, and we certainly encourage you to pick that up. It'll actually very much help her with the launch, as really we collectively work together to try to get this book out and get it more prominent so that the message can change more lives. I mean, that's really what it is all about. Okay, so let me bring this back here. Now, Chris had a really great question I wanted to share with you. She said, just got my copy, Gail. Congrats. I'd love to hear about your grandfather who inspired the Theodoras.
So my grandfather migrated from Europe in the early 1900s, before airplanes. So he migrated on a boat. He was one of 9 siblings, and they all migrated at different times, went through Ellis Island, and found their way in Chicago before not cell phones, but telephones, right? And so somehow they found each other. And he was a tool and die maker by trade, and he worked for Ludwig Drums. And he actually created the actual drums that the wood sticks that you bang on the drums. And so he's a tool and die maker by trade, but an entrepreneur by spirit. He owned a grill, a restaurant, a hardware shop, and no job was beneath him. I think my aunt even told me he sold shopping carts to grocery stores back in the day. And I was always fascinated by his work ethic and his sense of fashion. He loved shoes and he loved cars. And I said to myself, he passed away at the age of 97, if I were to ever start my own business, I would honor his memory and his name. And his name was Theodore. So enter Theodoras, adding an A, the feminine version named Theodore. So Theodore Speaks is my podcast. I host a podcast series that focuses on women who have successfully failed forward and reinvented their professional lives. And they share their stories, because all too often what we see, especially on social media, is everyone's successes, everyone jumping off the diving board, that beautiful formation into the water. But what we don't see is the troughs, right? The valleys. It's all about the peaks, but in the valleys are our lessons learned. And so these Theodoras share their stories to enrich other women's lives, to say, if you did it, and maybe if you did it this way, I can try that too, and maybe I can give it a whirl. So I have this podcast series. I wrote this book. And so the inner Theodora is you, the reader in this book.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. Was there a part of this, Gail, I know what a challenge it is to write a book, right? Been there and worked with lots of people that have done this. But often we find that there's some parts of a book that kind of write themselves, and they just come about. And so was there a part of the book that kind of did that just presented itself and grew organically?
Through the pillars, it's inspiration and motivation. But there's a lot of people out there, especially people that are on the public speaking circuit, that are inspiring and motivational. And that's great. And you can leave a conference, you can leave a keynote feeling inspired and empowered, and yes, I can. But then you leave and you say, now, how do I do that? And so what wrote itself were the tangible tools in my book that I offer through my 5-pillar methodology. I also have an online course that you can take in a group, or you can binge and self-guided. And so it's so important to have tangible takeaways and tools that you can instill in your life immediately. That's where I grew a lot as a professional and personally, when I had tools that I could instill in my life that actually worked.
All right, excellent. So share with us, if you would, do you have a favorite part? Do you have a favorite part of the book or a favorite character? You've got your 5 characters, one for each of your pillars. Is there a favorite?
So if I had to pick a favorite just looking at the book, it's Scylla, the scientist, because it's a beautiful story. She loves shoes. I love shoes. So that's personally. But then if I want to go even more personal, it's Antonia and Elaine, because those 2 characters are named after my daughters. Those are their middle names. And so what's great about them is their superpowers are the superpowers I actually see in my daughters today.
Oh, that's wonderful. What a great personal touch to have. Now, are you? How old are your daughters? Do they read? Are they old enough to read? Do they understand what you're doing for them, or is this they'll discover it later?
So they'll discover kind of later. I started writing this book when they were 1 and 3, and now they're 3 and 5. And when I first started writing this book, like I mentioned, it was a how-to book. And I thought, no, everyone's done that in the business, genre. How can I make a splash through storytelling? So I did hire a strategic editor who really brought, the characters to life even further than I could. So I really appreciated, the input there. But it's funny you ask, can they read? My 5-year-old is going through her sight words now, and each week passing her tests to go through the next rainbow of sight words so she can find the and boy and girl, etc. So I'm excited. But when I showed them this cover last night and read the dedication, which the book is dedicated to them, they lit up. So, and as did I. And then my 5-year-old said, Mommy, why are you teary-eyed?
What a precious moment, and terrific that you can share that with them. But while we're on this topic of the cover, do you want to tell us about the cover? What any thoughts behind it? I know this is your wonderful colors and branding and things like that, but tell us about the emblem.
Yes. So my audience is working women, like I mentioned. But when I started my business for women, and I also coach men, by the way, so we uplift men, I bring the allyship of men along the journey. So I didn't want to have a cutesy logo. I didn't want to be too feminine. So I chose this muddy blue because, well, one, I love navy, and on my wedding day, my something blue were my blue shoes. So I wanted something blue. And then also this logo is the logo of my podcast, Theodora Speaks. So this is you now, the reader. You're my Theodora. And so I wanted to incorporate that brand into my book because it's so important to showcase others who have successfully failed forward. And I love gold. I've always loved gold. I know that's all the rage now, right? Brass in your kitchen and appliances and all that fun stuff. But I just thought there'd be some masculinity and some femininity with my branding, not only on my website, in my podcast, but also in my book.
All right. Gail, can you tell us some of the other things that you do in your practice, in your business?
Sure. So in addition to the podcasting that I mentioned, I'll coach women one-on-one. I'll do group masterminds. I also speak at conferences. companies and organizations. And then I'll also go into select universities and talk about gender inclusivity and the importance. So how can women take calculated risks? But I also work with men on how do we uplift and up-level women when men and women have to work together. Oftentimes men will reach out to me and say, oh, I'm tasked with hiring diversity and inclusion on my team. I have to hire more women. I have to be more diversified. How do I do that? And so I go in there, roll up my sleeves, and I'm sort of an advisor, if you will.
Oh, that's excellent. So, Gail, just want to ask you, is there any last question, last thoughts as we wrap up here that you'd like to share? Anything I didn't ask you about your book or about what you're doing? Oh, and I definitely need to ask, how do people reach you? How do people reach out and connect with you?
So you can find my podcast, Theodora Speaks, anywhere you stream your podcast, Amazon, etc. I have a website, GaylKeller.org. That's GAYLE.Keller.org. You can also send me an email. There's a sign up for my newsletters on my website. And I would love to work with you, or if you could recommend someone, I'd be greatly appreciated. But I also want to take a moment to not only thank you for your support, Ignite Press, and to you, the viewer today, who will hopefully purchase my book, but to thank anyone who's ever supported me on my journey. And truth be told, it's been more men than women. And that was one of my 2 aha moments to write this book. Is men have always supported me, and I've appreciated that, and they've helped me be as successful as I am today. And so that gave me pause to say, how can I pay it forward and teach other women, empower other women with those learnings, with those tangible tools to help close that gap?
Excellent. Very good. Thank you so much, Gail, for not just joining me on the livecast, but just going through this journey with us of publishing a book, because it is a journey. Some people say it's like childbirth, but the process, it is a challenge. But I also want to say kudos to you, because you had 2 very young children at home and doing your business and writing a book and now launching a book all together at the same time. That is an impressive feat, and also speaks to what can be done, right? If you employ the correct strategies, bring the right team around you, have the courage, that is your superpower for sure, and to see it through. And so congratulations for what you have accomplished.
Thank you, Everett. And I'd be remiss not to say, if you do purchase my book, read my introduction that I wrote, because I wasn't always this courageous. I wasn't always a public speaker. I had stage fright, right? Jerry Seinfeld has a joke out there that people would rather, I can't even say it. It's a live cast. And it's really funny. And I just drew a huge blank, huh?
That's a good one. Okay.
Look it up. It's pretty good. But I wasn't always this courageous. So I talk about that in my book and talk about vulnerability. I share, the moments where I got that chutzpah. And, if I can do it, you can too.
Love it. Well, and I want to share this last comment before we take us out. Cindy wrote, Gail, you're definitely a model for all women. My favorite quote of yours is, we as women can do it all, but just not at the same time. I love it. All right. Very good. Thank you so much. So everybody, if you would, make sure to pick up your copy of Full Steam Ahead. You can pick it up on Amazon today, where the Kindle is 99 cents and the paperback is available as well. Thank you very much for joining us on this live cast. And if you have a book that you have been writing, that you've been dreaming about, that will have impact on your business or your brand, reach out to us. We'd be happy to schedule a strategy session and talk about the ways to bring that book to market, to make it really, really happen, instead of just being a dream or an idea. A book is honestly the most powerful marketing tool you can ever create for your business, your brand, or your movement. It's a tried and true tool, having been used for thousands of years. It's also the most durable tool. It's the only thing you will create now that will still be marketing for you, your business, and your brand a generation from now. So look for that, and look for us if you need some help with that. Thank you so much for joining us today. Take care.